All right, welcome back. So this is the 11th practical lesson, and if you go into the exercise file, oh 07 practical lessons, the 0711 fantasy folder, you will see the details and the file for this design. So this is a fantasy book cover, and you can see the title, the author name, the photo. We are using a lot of images in this design. So for the rest of the design, we are going to be using a lot of images, and then we are going to create a composite design. So we are going to use these two fonts, the Cinzel and then the Credit Valley font. So now let's go into the folder, or let's create our image. Let's create our design size first, and we can select any of the previous ones before. So you can just click on OK. So I think this is CMYK, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another one, another file, another document size. I actually want it to be RGB. I don't want to create CMYK. So I'm going to retain the size, but I'm going to change the color mode, and then maybe the background content to black, because I want it to actually be black. So, and I'm going to click OK. Now I have it as RGB, even though it's still showing CMYK at the top, but it doesn't matter. Let's just start our design, and let me go into the folder, and you can see we have about 4 or 5 images that I have here. You can see we have a rock, we have a water with a sheep, and then we have a light, and we also have part of water and the sky. So this is going to be the one that is going to be on the outside. So this is a rock with a hole in it. So it's like we are trying to create a design whereby it looks like we're actually looking through a rock. So with the water and then the sheep showing through the rock, and then we're going to have a bird flying behind the rock. So the rock is going to be on top, and every other image will be behind the rock. So let's import the images. Let's import all of them actually. So now the images are imported. Okay, the lights, let's import that also. So now that they've all imported, this is the background, and then we are going to drag this and drop, and now this is the image that we are going to use, and now every other thing. So what I'm going to do is the upper part and the lower part, I'm going to clean it because it's too sharp. I want to make it look like there's a transition from black to the rock, and then of course the hollow part is so I'm going to add a layer mask, and I'm going to choose the brush tool, then the foreground, make it black of course, and I'm going to whatever size of you can increase the size, and of course just brush through, and now it's not so sharp. It actually looks like from a darkness to to the rock. It doesn't really look sharp. So that is done, and we can go to the next image. So this image is done. This is like a water, and then this is another water body, and then a sky. So I need the sky part of this one, and then the water from the other one. So the sky, we are going to drag it below the rock, so we want to be able to see through the rock. So we are going to have the water body, then the sky, then everything just happening behind the rock. So what we need to do with this is to brush the upper part of that layer. So I'm going to retain part of the lower image, and then you can control click the rock. So this is what I want to do. I want to retain only part of the hollow. So you control click or command click, and now when I select this layer, I'm going to add a layer mask, and then you can see actually we have the rock into the mask, and now you can see the hollow part is black and then the outer part is light, which means the outer part is visible, the hollow part is empty. So we need to invert that. So Control I or Command I to invert. Now you can see the hollow part is now white, which means we are making the hollow part visible and every other thing is, hidden. So it's better than, using a brush tool and start, brushing. So that's another way to always retain a part of the image. You just do that, and then I'm going to do the same thing for this other one. I'm going to drag it, and then I'm going to add it, and then it's actually behind the rock. And I'm going to do the same thing. So retain only the hollow part, because that's the only thing that we need. So you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to select the rock layer and Control click or Command click. So select, and I'm going to select the lower layer, and I'm going to add a layer mask. So it's like adding the rock into that mask, and now we are going to invert it. So Control I or Command I, now is inverted. Now you can see we have this, and we have only the rock on the outside, then part of the water, only the hollow part is visible, every other thing is hidden. So I want the sky to be in the background and then the water in the foreground. So what I'm going to do is clean part of this lower part. So, and I'm going to select that layer, or I can select the mask and then clean part of that image so that the sky is visible through. Or let me first add the image first, then we can do that. So if you add the image, it's going to look like a bird is flying right on top of the sea. So let me go back to this mask, and I'm going to select the mask, and I'm going to clean that part that is under the bird. So I'm going to select the mask and select the brush and just clean part of that. I could clean a lot so that we're actually looking at the sky, but the space isn't that big, so I could just clean maybe this portion, then it's going to look like there's a sky there. It still looks okay, but it could be better. I just want to retain the sheep and then the drums, and so that's the only thing that I can show right now. So part of that lower image, and it's okay, you can work with that. So now we are done with the images, and I can group the images together and maybe add some effects, some adjustment layers. So let me group that first, and then I'm going to name that images, or maybe background, or BG, something like that, background images. And now we have the images, but I could maybe add the background. So you have to unlock it, and then let's drag everything together, and then we have everything, all the images on the background into that. Let's call it background now, since we've removed the, so now it's now named background, which looks okay. So now maybe the top and the lower part, I want to fade out the edges more a little bit. So I could go to, of course, into this mask, and then select the gradient tool, and then you brush, just brush gently. Yeah, it looks so much better now. Now it looks like, if you brush, now you can see there's no way we can actually add brush two sides in the same mask. So we have to only brush one side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush one side of it, then I'm going to create a new layer and then brush the other part. So I'm going to create a new layer. We cannot brush that, or I can use the brush tool and just brush here, and just do that in the same mask. I'll use the gradient for one part, then use the brush for the other part, then reduce the opacity to maybe something like that. It looks so much better than just okay. So brush, and we're done. So now we are going to add, like I said, add some effects. So let's add some adjustment layers on the background image. So I'm going to select the adjustment layer, and let's work with maybe photo filter first. I like using photo filter. It makes everything blend well together. When it comes to color correction, that and curve, they always work great. So I can maybe choose a color. You can see there's some blue of the water, so I can choose maybe cyan. Yeah, it looks so much better, and colorize it with that cyan color. And or I can just select this and be able to select any color that I want, from blue to cyan, or sample part of the watercolor, and click OK. No, or let me just add a particular color, 003HFF, then maybe something like that, and then the density, maybe increase it. No, that's too much. That's too much, but it looks so much better. Now it looks like everything is so I could just maybe reduce or let me leave that, and I can make some adjustment later. So now I'm going to add hue and saturation. Now I'm going to use the hue and saturation to reduce the saturation. So I'm going to stick with maybe the master, or I can go through any of the channels, or let me just stick with the master and then use the hue to go to the cyan part of, and then maybe the saturation, make it less saturated, or maybe you want to, no, that's too much, maybe one, then the lightness, maybe a little bit to the negative because of the black at the top. So let's make it, yeah, -16 looks good. And now let's check out the before and the after. You can see it looks so much better. So we have that cyan, so we added some hue and saturation to the background. Now you can see the before and the after, and you can see it looks so much better. So now we can group the two together and name it filter or adjustment layer. Let's name it filter, and we are done with that. So now we need to start adding some text. So we have the title, the mighty man, the author name, the co-author. So, and we can add the author below, and then the title somewhere at the top. So first things, let's work with the author name. So Control C or Command C to copy that, and since this is a fantasy book, I'm going to paste, and I'm going to use this Cinzel and Cinzel decorative. I like to use both of them, and then I'm going to select maybe this orangey color, like so, and I'm going to the font Cinzel. I'm going to increase the size to okay, maybe yeah, 35 is okay, and I'm going to use the character panel and just reduce the spacing between the characters. maybe make it 0, and yeah, it looks so much better. And I could use the Cinzel decorative. So if you capitalize it, all caps, or then bold it, maybe let's bold, and maybe I should use the Cinzel decorative, or I could stay with the Cinzel regular. Cinzel decorative, let's compare both. They are fonts of the same family or related family, so I like to use them together. So I think this one looks good, and then if you make it all caps, it always gives you this kind of shape. And let me drag until it's in the middle. Yeah, and now we are done. So we can check that, and you can see the difference. So now let's add the other details. The co-author Sydney Perry, and then I'm going to paste, and I'm going to reduce this to maybe use the Cinzel this time around, Cinzel regular, and I'm going to reduce the size. Then I could add with Sydney Perry. So instead of adding just with Sydney Perry, and now we have that. Select the move tool and then move it to the middle like so. So now I could use the arrow key, then push it up a little bit, and maybe 19. Then the color, we can make that white because it's actually sitting on the black background, so we can make that white so it actually looks we can actually see it well. So now the title, we are going to maybe put it in 3 lines. The Mighty Men of Great Wall of, I'm going to copy that, put that on a line, then the window on another line, the black on another line. So select the title and then paste that and drag it to the top like so. And of course you can change the font, change the size, double click. Let's make that 10, and now we can double click, then maybe 11. Then the character panel, we can space out the, and then check, and now we're done. So now the second part is let's give it a color. Then we can sample the cyan color that I used the other time. I can use that, or I could just double click and sample from the water. So window, Mighty Men of the Great Wall of window, WINDWO, and then black. Double click, and let's use the credit valley, regular. Yeah, regular would do, or we can increase the size to maybe around 109, 1010, 111. I want it to be, then character panel, reduce the, make it 0 actually, and now drag it to right below the, and we need to give room for the black. And check. So now this, I'll move it up. I need more room for the black, so the window, so I'll add a black here, and I could duplicate that, and let me change the color to maybe white, and then, or we could just stick with that color, and then maybe we add something like a textile. Let's add a textile or a gradient overlay, and we can select, you click on that, and now you can use any of the presets, or you can just click on, let's use this, the foreground and background color, or black and white, or the foreground to transparent. So let's choose the foreground to background, then we can control the color that we want. So, and I could sample color from the water, so I could use the cyan and white. So I could reverse the color and select the angle. So this is the foreground and background color, and right now you can see on the left it's actually white and black. So we can change, let's change the angle of the direction first, and we can work with the color later. So go back to 0, then let's go back to gradient overlay, and maybe 90. So opacity, okay, maybe 75 looks okay, and then you can see what it looks like. But I'm going to change that color, double click the color. It won't have effect actually, since we already given it a gradient overlay. So even if we change the color now, it might not. So we can come back to that later. So now black, B-L-A-C-K, then now we have enough room, and then double click, make the size like so. Maybe it's too small, and drag, and then let's space it out. Character panel, and we can, okay, maybe 0 is fine, and you can add a color overlay, and or gradient overlay instead of color overlay, and now you can see it's still the foreground background color, which is black and white. So we can click on this, and then click on and select the cyan that we used before, 00D8FF, and now then the other end will be white. So this, let's make this, let's leave it white, or we can still use the same color. Then we can, I could make that, this side maybe black, okay, the other hand so now we have something like this. See the gradient, the style is linear, and then click on OK. And now maybe we are done with that. And so now the window, I don't know if white looks cool, but let's just so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a light and put it, maybe it's going to look better if I put a light on the word window, on that layer window. Yeah, we can put it, just drag it at the top, and then let's change the color mode to multiply color bond, screen dodge. Color dodge looks okay, or linear dodge I think color dodge looks okay. And of course, Control T or Command T, and let's reduce that. And then let's so it creates something like a glow, like an iron glow right on top of the, and then you can see it looks so much cooler. And then I can drag it down or drag window up, and let's space this out, the black, let's space it out. And here I think it looks so much better if it's spaced out. And you can see now we can maybe control the color overlay color. Let's uncheck that and go from the cyan to black. Maybe deeper blue, or let's make it maybe something like that. Or we could, and click on OK, and it's still so much better actually. So now we can drag this down a little bit, very close, since it's still part of the title. Then I'm going to make sure the weight is the same as the window, and drag it down so it looks like it's actually sitting nearly at the top. And now I can group all of them together and move them together, and with this layer, which is now part of the title, I'm going to group all of them and then make them text or title. Then this is the author, group together and name it author. Then the mighty man all the way to the top is the title. Now I have the title, the author name, the filter, and of course the background images. Then I could just center everything. Just select the 3 layer and then click on that center in the option bar, and down they are done. And we could group these two together and then name them text. So now we are done. So let's still maybe reduce this or just leave it as it is, and we are done with this design. So this is a fantasy book cover, and I'm going to save it first as a PSD and as a JPEG design. So you could try it and make sure you get something close, or if you have any problem you can always contact me anytime. So I hope you like this design. In the next video we are going to go to a romance erotica book design. So until then, I hope you like this video. On to the next video.